everyone! Today I'm taking you on a journey that's honestly a bucket list experience for any motorcycle lover. The Harley Davidson Homecoming Festival in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And this one, it's extra special. You'll see why. Milwaukee isn't just another city on the map, it's like the beating heart of Harley Davidson. Every year, thousands of riders and fans from all over the world gather here to celebrate that legacy, the culture, and the future of Harley Davidson. And this year I was invited to attend as one of Harley's guests, and I still can't believe it. The Homecoming Festival is more than just a party. It's like a living, breathing tribute to freedom, adventure, and the spirit of the open road. When I touched down in Milwaukee, the first thing I saw was a warm welcome and a Harley Davidson display right in the airport. They really want to let you know who's boss around here. My first stop was the Harley Davidson Powertrain Operations Development Facility. Now, if you're a gearhead or just curious about how these legendary bikes come to life, this place is basically motorcycle heaven. We started the tour in the dyno testing area where I met up with a bunch of other creators who were here, including Jake from Spite's Corner. So it was lovely to see a friendly face. I also met up with Jen, who works at Harley Davidson, and invited me out to be a part of this experience, so thank you, Jen. For those who don't know, a dynamometer, or a dyno, is a machine that measures the power output of an engine, and Harley uses two types, which I didn't know there were two types. There's basically a rear wheel dyno, which is kind of what you see at most tracks, and then there's the engine dyno, which is connected directly to the engine itself.
Yeah, so the bike night dynos, that's all through the rear wheel. So that's essentially a chassis dyno.
Okay.
This is an engine dyno where we're taking the primary out, the belts, the rear wheel. We take all that out and just run the power right off of the crankshaft of the engine. So we don't have any losses, because anytime you have a gear mesh or a belt or a chain or a tire, those are all lost.
So the engine dyno is the real deal. There's no belts or chains or anything that gets in the way, so you get raw power output. So as we saw next, it's not about just power. Harley is also obsessed with durability. We actually got to see their durability testing, which is like a torture chamber for motorcycles. It's a machine that can simulate years of road use in just a few days, or a few hours. They push these bikes and even individual parts right to the edge until they break, or until a certain level of fatigue has been reached in the part, just to make sure they can handle anything the real world throws at them. And I'm not gonna lie, after watching this poor motorcycle on the durability simulator, I started to feel kind of bad for it, but I guess it's all in the name of science. It's kind of crazy to think about how much abuse these machines can take and still keep going. We even got to see the inside of a transmission while we were in this room, gear shafts and all. One of the cool things we got to see next was the design process up close. So Harley's engineers have this saying, they go from mild to wild when creating new bikes and new styles. And the goal is to find that perfect balance before they move on to clay modeling, which, fun fact, clay modeling has been around since the 1940s, and the clay miller they use now is a multi-million-dollar machine that can sculpt a fairing in just 4 hours, depending at what stage the artists put the clay on the sculpting block. What I kind of took away from this was how much Harley Davidson values both tradition and innovation. They are constantly experimenting with new materials, new designs, new tech, but they try never to lose sight of what makes a Harley a Harley. I think the more you learn about a specific manufacturer or a specific model of a motorcycle, you realize that they're not just machines, they're works of art in their own way, especially when you get to learn about all of the hard work that goes into creating it. After the tour, Harley handed me the keys to a street bob for the weekend. I'm not gonna lie, I was grinning like a kid on Christmas morning, and I was kind of happy that they gave me the bright yellow banana colored street bob. We're gonna take off and have a good time. Ooh! There is something about riding a Harley in Milwaukee that just feels right. Stay tuned because a review on that bike is coming up soon. The more I looked at the Street Bob, the more I really liked how it felt like both classic and modern at the same time. From the powertrain facility, we rode over to the Juneau Avenue factory, which is definitely more than just a building. It's a piece of living history. It was built in 1910 and it's been the heart of Harley Davidson for over a century. This park is 2 years old now. It used to be a flat parking lot, but it was turned into this motorcycle parking park. And I love how they customized each spot. Gets its own little tile art. I've never seen motorcycle parking like so thought out, to the point where they left the circle in so you could ride down there, turn around and get out. That's amazing. We even got to walk up this old staircase that isn't just an old staircase. It's very special. Apparently, Willie G. Davidson, who's the grandson of co-founder William A. Davidson, fought to keep this staircase during all the renovations of the building because of its history. His grandfather used to walk up and down that staircase dozens of times a day as he was doing his rounds of the factory. So we were literally walking in the footsteps of the founders. Welcome to the death. It's a bit anticlimactic, but I felt the history coming up. Yeah. The entire facility is like a living history monument, so it feels wrong not to talk about the founders for a second. Harley Davidson was born in 1903 when William S. Harley and the three Davidson brothers, Arthur Davidson, Walter Davidson, and William A. Davidson, built their first motorcycle in a small wooden shed. That shed actually still stands today next to the Harley Davidson Museum. But from those humble beginnings, they managed to create a brand that would become a global icon. By 1907, they were making just 150 bikes a year, and their biggest challenge at the time was convincing people to trade in their horses for motorcycles. I think that's so wild and definitely a different type of marketing challenge. I'll show you some of their older marketing materials later on, which were still preserved in the archives. Inside the Juneau factory, we got a private tour and we learned about the early days of Harley. Their walls are lined with photos and artifacts and stories that just bring the past to life. There's definitely a sense of pride and tradition that runs through everything here. It's not just about building bikes, it's kind of about building a legacy, and that's what Harley feels like to me. One of the coolest things I enjoyed seeing was all of the old catalogs of women's gear. I was geeking out over how cool some of the old school gear looked, and I was having so much fun at looking to see what the ladies' fashion was like back in the day. I'm not gonna lie, some of those jackets looked really cool, and I was really eyeing up this white leather one. I think if I was their age in that era, this would be my crew. One of the interesting facts that I learned is that Harley was building a lot of motorcycles, and they were taking them straight out of the factory and into the railroad that ran right beside it and shipping them off. After the tour, we rode back to the hotel, and of course, the skies opened up. We got absolutely drenched. I wasn't wearing any waterproof gear, so I was soaked to the bone. But honestly, it was kind of fun. However, I did need my gear to dry because tomorrow we were doing another ride. So I hung it up in front of the heater in the hotel with my fingers crossed, hoping that it would be dry by tomorrow. Spoiler alert, it wasn't fully dry. But at least I could towel myself off and then rush over to the Harley Davidson Homecoming Festival at Veterans Park an hour later. We were over there getting ready to kick off the creator meet and greet. There was people and bikes everywhere. I met up with other creators, said hi to other people I knew, and I even tried out a motorcycle racing simulator on a Pan America. I had tried this kind of motorcycle simulator before on a super sport bike, but never on a Pan America, so I was super curious to get up on this and see what it handled like. As you can see, they had to adjust this thing beyond belief because I am too tiny for this, and on the simulator you have to turn the bike by leaning it. But once we got that all sorted out, I had such a fun time actually riding this thing, and I definitely didn't come in like 18th place or anything like that, if you're wondering. Yeah, it was definitely like top 3 for sure. I also got to eat a slice of pizza that was literally bigger than my head. I got the most giant pizza slice I've ever had in my entire life. I'm pretty sure this contains my entire day's caloric intake. I had to bite off the end because it was falling off of the gigantic plate they gave me. But it was so tasty. But just as we were having a fun time eating, drinking, and meeting other creators, a plot twist came around and we got a tornado warning. So we all had to evacuate. Me, Jake from Spite's Corner, and Jen made a run for it. Well, more like a brisk walk back to the hotel. Well, we had to evacuate, but nothing's gonna stop me from finishing my face-sized pizza slice. Not even a tornado. You already finished yours. What are you laughing at?
I was hungry.
He just took off, and then he came back, and when he came back, there was no more pizza slice. It was kind of chaotic, but honestly, it made for a great story. Anyways, the early night in gave me a chance to relax and get ready for day 2 tomorrow for the Nancy Davidson Memorial Ride. Day 2 started before the sun was even up, and I was honored to be a part of the Memorial Ride because the ride isn't just about bikes, it's about legacy, family, and giving back. Nancy Davidson, for those who don't know, was the wife of Willie G. Davidson and a beloved figure in the Harley community. The ride raises money for cancer research, and it's led by her daughter, Karen Davidson, who's not only a direct descendant of the Davidson family, but also a powerhouse in her own right. I think this kind of thing is what makes Harley Davidson so special. It's not just about the machines, it's all about the people and the stories that connect us. There's something about riding in a group that makes you feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself. It all adds up to a sense of community that's hard to put into words. Anyways, I've never been disappointed by a bike ride that was organized by women, so I was super happy to be a part of this one. As the ride was coming to a close, we rolled up to the Harley Davidson Museum, and let me tell you, this place is a must visit for any motorcycle fan. The museum sits on a 20-acre campus right along the Menominee River, and it's packed with history, art, and some of the coolest bikes I'd seen, as there was a custom motorcycle show going on right out front.
Guys, this one is insane. I've never seen anything like this. Never.
The bike show was already in full swing. There was rows and rows of one-of-a-kind bikes. Each one is a testament to creativity and craftsmanship. I spent quite a few minutes wandering around and just looking at all the wild paint jobs, the intricate details and metalwork, and the stories behind each build. I thought this bike was one of the coolest ones that I saw on that lot. Look how detailed everything is. That's crazy. I can't even imagine how much time it took to do all this. Another bike in particular caught my eye, and that was Blockhead's custom build. He actually told me it took over 300 hours to complete, and they went into incredible lengths to match the paint on an original tank from the museum. And that's the kind of attention to detail that makes the custom scene kind of fascinating. I was even thinking that he should get in touch with my mom because she's a chemist and she used to formulate paints and finishes for Harley Davidson. It's a small world, right? But yeah, for those that don't know, it's kind of hard to replicate old finishes of paints and get them to match exactly right. There was also live music, demo rides, and even workshops on leather working. I even asked an artist to let me get some shots of him pinstriping customers' motorcycles on the spot, and that was so cool to see. Okay, but the real highlight was getting a special tour of the museum itself that was led by the head curator. If you're a history buff or just love a good story, this place is a goldmine for you. The museum traces the evolution of Harley Davidson from its humble beginnings in 1903 to the global icon it is today. There's over 450 motorcycles on display, plus thousands of artifacts, photos, and original documents. One of the most mind-blowing parts was getting to go inside the Harley Davidson archive vault. That's where they keep a bike from every single year since 1915. Can you imagine? Every year they pull one bike off the production line and preserve it for future generations. Some of these bikes barely have any miles on them. Like this 1956 model I saw, it only had 8 miles on the odometer. And then there are bikes with stories, like the one used in the Terminator movie. I was kind of geeking out. And so was Jake, who just couldn't believe some of the bikes that he saw in here. It was actually kind of fun to see him lose his mind over some of these old models. The museum curator actually told me that they're always looking to expand their collection and fill in any missing gaps. So if you have a Harley Davidson that's older than 1915, you know who to call. Which bike did you decide to pull for 2025?
2025.
Or 2020, whichever the one is the latest one you guys pulled.
Oh gosh.
I'm putting you on the spot.
I know.
Sorry.
I haven't got it delivered yet either.
Okay, you're off the hook then.
Yeah, I know.
You're fine.
We ordered it. For 2024, we pulled the icon button.
The archives aren't just about bikes though. There's a file repository with old marketing catalogs, including the very first one from 1907. Back then, Harley was trying to convince people to swap their horses for motorcycles. I have to admit, I'm a bit of a nerd, and I was fascinated by the way the archives are preserved. Some of the documents are so fragile that you can only handle them with gloves. The curator told us that the marketing teams still come down here for inspiration, looking for ways to connect the brand's past with its future. I think that's so cool. History isn't something you just look at, it's something you build on. And having an entire temperature and humidity controlled room, archives and documents on a motorcycle brand is something so wild. I could definitely see myself working here. I don't even know what my job title would be. Harley Davidson librarian, something like that.
This came out of an Evil Knievel exhibit.
Oh shit, that's cool.
So they had found a collector with Evil Knievel's X-rays. One thing I like to say is if it exists, there's a collector for it somewhere in the world.
That's hilarious.
And I can never remember with this, because this predates me by a few years, whether this was Wimbledon in the 70s when he really wrecked, or if this is multiple crashes. But whatever it is, it all looks painful.
Yeah.
One of the other fascinating things I learned at the museum was about a sport called wooden board racing. I had never heard of it before, but honestly, it's one of the wildest chapters in motorcycle history, I think. Back in the 1910s and 1920s, racers would compete on oval tracks that were made entirely of wooden planks. Sometimes they were called motordromes, and these tracks were steeply banked, and riders would hit speeds of over 100 miles an hour on them with nothing but a leather helmet and, I guess, sheer guts to protect them. The bikes themselves were actually stripped down for speed, so no brakes, no suspension, and get this, no recirculating oil system. So riders had to pump their own oil as they raced down the track. The risk was off the charts. The crashes were really common, the wooden tracks would often break, but the crowds loved it, and the sport did help push motorcycle technology forward. Eventually, the safety concerns got high enough, and the cost of maintaining the tracks was just too great, and that kind of led to the end of board racing. But its legacy lives on in the Harley Davidson Museum. Another thing that blew my mind was learning about the evolution of motorcycle design. Did you know that the first attempt at suspension was just adding springs to the seat? That was it. No fancy shocks, no hydraulic systems, just a bouncy seat to take the edge off the bumps. I guess this was a step up from horses, in a way, maybe. It's kind of hilarious though, but also kind of genius. Necessity really is the mother of invention. After the museum tour, it was time to head back to the festival for more fun. The sun was out, the music was already pumping, and the smell of barbecue was in the air. And speaking of food, I got myself a nice churro and a dulce de leche coffee, which I really desperately needed. One of the coolest things I think I captured on camera that day was at this tent where people who hadn't ridden a motorcycle before could get on one for the first time and experience what it's like to ride. And check out this girl's face. She is just so happy to be here, and I could tell that we are building a motorcycle enthusiast as we speak. I tried to get in as many steps today and just take in all the cool festivities that were happening, like the Burnout Bagger and the cool concerts that were going on. Then as the day turned to evening, I tried to find Jason Momoa because he was apparently just wandering around, but I couldn't find him, so that's okay. I got myself another churro, please don't judge, and then I found a spot by the bay to watch the city lights come on. The breeze off of Lake Michigan was so cool and refreshing, and I took a moment just to soak it all in. Milwaukee looks kind of cool at night, and it was kind of magical to hear the concert noise going on in the distance and just sit there and enjoy the breeze on my face. It was so cool to be a part of Harley Davidson history. I hope you guys learned some cool stuff from this journey, and thank you for coming along for the ride. Until next time, bye!